Okay, hi Manistee County, and welcome back to Politics is Local. Hey, before we get into our interview today, I'd like to bring you up to speed on some things that are going to happen right here in Manistee County in the next few days, in the next week and a half. On Saturday, July 4th, we are going to be represented in the National Forest Festival Parade right here on River Street in Manistee. There'll be over 5,000 people here for that parade lining the streets. And I will tell you that the float that the Manistee County Democratic Party has is truly amazing. It will be the talk of this parade. It is really a wonderful float, and it's literally a float because we are using a pontoon boat, and it's representing the blue wave that's coming in November. Now, we'd love to have you join us and walk with us in the parade. And if you feel like you can't quite make it all the way in the parade, we're going to have several golf carts that are going to be available to you on a first-come, first-served basis. So please show up. We're going to be assembling off Division Street, probably Division and Clay Street at 9 o'clock, starting at 9 o'clock, and the parade starts at 10. So we'd love you to have you come by and walk with us. And you're also going to join several of our candidates who are going to join us. Right now, Rebecca Amadon, who's running for State Senate in District 32, our local person running, and she will be in the parade with us. Angel Kuhn, who's running for State Representative in the 102nd District, is committed to being here. We're also going to have two candidates from the 2nd Congressional District running for U.S. Congress. Ben Ambrose and Jamie Hill will be here joining us at the parade on July 4th. So we hope that you can come, bring the family, bring the kids. It's a great time. We are always very well received here at the Manistee 4th of July parade. It's really a lot of fun. And speaking of fun, it's going to be even more fun because right here in this office, we're going to have an Orange Crush party that same day. We have got cases of Orange Crush Pop already assembled here, donated to us by many folks who really think this is going to be a fun idea. But what we're going to do is we're going to offer, a glass of ice cold Orange Crush, to anybody on the parade route that stops by and says hi to us. And it's going to be a lot of fun. And I hope you get the connection when we say the Orange Crush. We're going to crush that orange menace in Washington, D.C. come November 3rd. We're going to have that for sure. The next thing is happening on Monday, July 6th. We're going to have Secretary of State and candidate for governor, Jocelyn Benson, right here in Manistee. And she will be with us to listen to you, to talk to you, to answer your questions. It's going to be from 1 till 2 o'clock on Monday, July 6th. Now, security is an issue. These statewide candidates, they've got to be careful. So what we're going to do is we have a link that will be on our website and a link that will be on our social media pages that will allow you to register for this meeting on Monday, July 6th. And the location will then be given to you 48 hours before the event. So I think you know where this event's going to be. Those of you who have attended our events in the past, it's going to be in that same wonderful location. But come see Secretary of State and Michigan Governor candidate Jocelyn Benson on Monday, July 6th from 1 to 2 p.m. Then on Thursday, July 9th, in the West Shore building right here on River Street, Ben Ambrose, who is the candidate for U.S. Congress, will be here to hold what is a real town hall. A town hall open to the public, and he will answer your questions from the audience. And it gives you a great opportunity to evaluate this candidate who is running to represent us in Washington, D.C. Ben will be at the West Shore building from 6 to 8 p.m. on Thursday, July 9th. See, bring your friends, bring your neighbors, bring the people who are, they're not happy with what's going on right now. They're not sure who they're going to vote for. This is a great opportunity to educate them, help them get educated, and maybe make a decision on who to vote for. First of all, we have to vote to find our candidate in the August 4th primary. By the way, Your mail-in ballots, your absentee ballots should be coming to you. You should have them in your hand before the 4th of July. And this gives you that opportunity to sit down at your kitchen table, to sit down and do some research about the candidates that are on that primary ballot. You need to know who will best represent you up and down the ballot. So I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of these absentee voting ballots come in. And you take that opportunity to educate yourself, educate your friends, your neighbors, your family about these candidates. Got anything else, Nate?
Oh, we can introduce our guest.
I think so. Really happy today to have Mark Yonkman with us. Mark is running for State Senate in District 36. Thank you very much. And by the way, Mark, if you just look up here, you can see we've got the 36th district up there on the board, and what that represents is most of the eastern part of Manistee County.
Yes.
And it's one of what, 16 counties?
16 counties
Wow.
from Lake Michigan essentially to Lake Huron. So all of the counties that are on the lakes.
You're going to put some miles on. You're going to. It's really something, and you're already starting to do that, aren't you?
I am. Yes.
So Mark has been
almost every day.
Mark has been with us in Manistee County even before he declared as a candidate. Mark wrote a great book a couple of years ago that I find just to be a great reference document telling us how we should work in rural America in the upper northern Midwest, Mark. And thank you very much for that book.
And that book has aged well.
It has.
Yes.
It really has.
Aged well.
Absolutely.
Right.
So Nate, why don't you start off? Well, let's put this guy under the bright light.
I want to get right into it, talk about something we were talking about before the show that I think you're very knowledgeable on, and that's energy in Michigan. And how are we going to keep up with supplying energy to things like agriculture and data centers?
Right. And EVs and heat pumps and new factories.
Yeah.
So when I returned to Michigan in 2000, my parents passed away very end of 2018. So I was really here in 2019. And everyone I talked to in my bubble, my little rural bubble, were talking about the power plants that were being torn down. And we were tearing down baseload energy. These were primarily coal-fired plants. And at the time, 2015, Michigan, if you're old enough, you remember brownouts. Do you remember brownouts, John?
Sure.
Yeah, we had brownouts, and that was a drop in voltage where a plant would turn on and your lights would get very dim. And so Michigan embarked on a great building program, and by 2015, we were producing 32 gigawatts of baseload power. That's a lot. Our average consumption is 17. So we were producing double what our average consumption is. And at the time, we were viewed as the golden child of our grid. And our grid goes from Manitoba all the way down to Louisiana. Michigan was the golden child because we're producing way more electricity than we need at that time. So what happened is we entered into a 10-year period of flat, no growth, because we were doing efficiencies, LED bulbs, right? More efficient motors, all sorts of things that instead of continuing to go up, which is why we built 32, it went like this and then flattened out for 10 years it was flat. Well, what we did then is we tore down 10 gigawatts of that 32. So now we're down to 22 gigawatts of base load power. And our peak power need is 21 gigawatts. So we're right on the edge right now. And then on top of that, now we're trying to add in intermittent power. And intermittent power is difficult if you haven't built other infrastructure because a grid can only absorb so much. Ours can only absorb 30% as it stands. We will be at 30% by the end of this year with our build out, which means in the summer we'll have to curtail intermittence to keep it under that threshold. So we have a lot of work to do on the infrastructure side that we're not doing. And the reason we're not doing it is because it's not sexy. You know, when you put things in the ground or you build storage, you can't see it. You don't see the windmill, you don't see the solar array. So this is normal. Every other state did the same thing, so did Europe. But everybody is facing this wall of reality right now. So our grid operator, MISO, which is the Mid-Atlantic Independent System Operator, and then NERC is the North American Energy Resource Corporation, which monitors Canada and the US. We operate as one big grid. And they NERC has been saying for 3 years, stop tearing down any of your plants until you've built the replacements. And everybody ignored them. Not just Michigan, other states did too. And in May of this year, so that's still last month, NERC and MISO came out with Tier 3 red alerts for our region that we will have rolling blackouts by 2028 because we tore down our power and we don't have anything to replace it with. We need to address this right away. So that's the grid issue that is facing us. And this exists before you talk about data centers. They were talking about this for EVs and heat pumps and new factories. So the EV goal that we had for 2030 would require like 24 gigawatts of power. If all those cars came home at 5 o'clock and plugged in, that would be 24 gigawatts of power. We're only generating 22 and we're already using it. How are you going to charge all those cars? And advocates say, well, charge them at 3 a.m. Well, that might work for some, right? I mean, but that's hard to do, right? There's a lot of stuff that you can do to kind of try to eke out this, but that's not human behavior. And the way we're going, we need to figure out how to do that. So that's a big issue before you get to data centers. So that's the energy issue. It's addressable, but since I've been here, my electric bill has gone up exactly 65%, and it's all infrastructure. It's not base load power actually got cheaper because now we're not running this big generator where we're kind of wasting the electricity because we tore it down. So you're not paying for that coal, you're not paying for maintenance, and so your cost of electricity per kilowatt has gone down, but your infrastructure cost has gone way up. And rural people are very aware of this. They're aware of what's going on. My urban friends are not.
What are some of the things you think you can do at the state level to help solve these problems?
Well, so I think that data centers can be part of the solution to this because I want to get somebody else to pay for this, right? And there are a couple of ways to do that. One of them is, I think data centers, it's easy to address the issues. For example, water, you can pass regulation that they can't withdraw water out of the ground and they can't use municipal water other than for your ordinary bathrooms and things that you have in any facility, and other for the initial charge of a closed loop system. And then let industry figure it out. There are already solutions for this. Bill Gates has one that's closed loop. The Chinese put one on the bottom of the ocean, which solves all the problems. We have lots of lakes. We could do that too. Let industry figure that out. So water is actually, just put in a rec. We've been treating them up to this point like they're warehouses. So everybody builds it the cheapest way possible,
right,
which is with evaporative cooling. Yeah. Fine, fix it. Don't complain about it. Fix it. That's not a complaining thing, that's a fixing it thing. You can do the same with noise. You can set a noise standard. It's more expensive to build a facility, but they're going to do it. They're spending $3 trillion on data center build out. There's a lot of money there. And then for energy, and I think most people get this wrong, they're saying, well, the data center should pay for 100% of its energy use. Actually, the data center should pay for at least 115% of its energy use because, well, and I would go to 125. 115 is what our grid operator requires. You always have to have 15% extra because plants go down for maintenance. There's this 15% buffer you'd have to have. So if they're only paying for 100%, who's going to pay for that 15% extra? The consumer. That would make your electric bill go up.
Right.
So first of all, read NERC and MISO and understand what the requirements are and set the requirement at 115, not 100. But then I would say, let's set it at 125. That way they're going to have to build, and I would say they have to build baseload power, like a small modular reactor. That's the Bill Gates solution, that they produce 125% of what they are going to use. And then you feed that 25% extra into the grid. That makes your electric bill go down because now there's more energy coming in, and
okay,
and consumers and DTE, which are the two big ones, don't have to do that. So that's one way. That's one way to get money out of the AI industry and into Michigan, and it solves our baseload power issue.
I think you had a kind of a unique idea too about, yes, it would help having a data center in a township that is strapped for, tax base. Mm-hmm. If property tax is going to go up because you've got, a warehouse.
Tax, yeah, right.
But I think you had a better idea.
Yeah, which is
the
petaflop tax.
Yeah,
right. And just before we start, it's not about jobs. These data centers are not going to create any meaningful jobs after construction is done. During construction, yes, they're going to be, we don't even have enough, that's one of the bottlenecks. We don't have enough contractors to build these data centers. That's another one of the bottlenecks. But once it's built, the few jobs that they are going to generate will be done by robots. And everyone thinks that. I have a lot of investor friends who are, they've moved way beyond that. So it's not about jobs. But if we're going to be building these things in Michigan, because they do take up land, you know, you can't get around that. Well, you could get around that by putting them at the bottom of the lake, but and they do generate heat. It's hard to get around that issue other than bottom of the lake. But if we're going to be doing that, and to take advantage of the vast amount of money that's going through the AI industry, when they process data in Michigan, you can have a data processing royalty. So that royalty would generate revenue that you could give a little bit, like 1% to the township, 2% to the county, and the rest could go to the state.
Oh, I love that.
And you would tax it. It would be like 1/10 of a cent per petaflop of data that is processed. And a petaflop is a quadrillion floating point operations per second. That's your high-end AI data. So climate modeling, designing robots, and the, you know, all that sort of stuff. For a gigawatt data center, which is a big one, that would be about $30,000 in year one. So your year one expense, it wouldn't stop anyone from building the data center. But the beauty of it is it ramps up because chips get better every single year, and they process more. And by year 15, that would turn into about $300 million at that center, given today's, if that stayed the same, which is, everyone says that's likely to be the case. You'd probably have to renegotiate that royalty, in fact. But if you had 100 of these, that would be $30 billion a year of revenue for the state of Michigan. Now you can talk about reducing property tax. Now you can talk about reducing income tax and all these other wonderful things that people want to do. Now you've got revenue to do this. So I think that's an important thing to look at. Otherwise, we're just housing their business and not really getting anything out of it. And there are other people who said, well, you know, we should tax the amount of energy they use. I'm like, that's a fool's errand because they're going to get more efficient. Yeah. That tax is only going to go down, right? They'll become more and more efficient. We'll figure out things, and that tax is going to go down. The royalty is only going to go up. So that would be my position on that. And it solves our other funding issues as well.
And by the way, that's how they get paid.
And that's how they get paid. And the beauty is almost all of it comes up from outside of Michigan, and it comes globally.
Yep.
Right? So I pay for AI. I pay $21 a month for Gemini. And I just got a letter from Google talking about my curtailment because they don't have enough processing power. That's right. So they're saying, you know, you get 5 hours a day, and I don't hit these limits, so it's probably fine for me. But I'm getting penalized right now. Not penalized, but my cost has gone up because I'm entitled to fewer hours of use. Yeah. And at some point, my actual cost will go up. I'll be paying $25 a month. But so is the guy in Uganda and Moscow and Paris, and because they're using our AI as well, Claude and Gemini and the others. So that is foreign money that's coming into Michigan. That's a great kind of income to have.
Smart idea.
So we can shift gears a little bit here. We'll stay on technology though.
Okay.
Now we were talking about robots earlier, and you mentioned how China's got robots in their homes, and we need to catch up here. But there are issues that if we're buying Chinese robots, and you know, there might be the ability to hack into them and things like that. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yep, right. So China already has robots for sale as low as $4,000. And one of the popular ones is $17,000. This isn't a big number for a robot. And they're learning. And they're limited, but they're learning. And these robots are starting to be able to clean a house, which is a very difficult task for a robot. It's messy, you know, it's not repetitive. And most of the robotic parts are made in China. So when you assemble a US robot, you're using Chinese parts. People aren't so concerned about the parts other than being cut off. And it is moving to Taiwan, but Taiwan's an issue, right? Because that could be Chinese soon. Mm-hmm. So what people are concerned about, though, and why you can't buy Chinese robots, which I think this is a smart thing to do, is the software. What are these robots? Are there hidden back doors? How easy are they hacked? And if you're buying a Chinese robot with Chinese software, you're guaranteed that there is a back door into this. So the U.S. government is cutting that off, which is good, but it also, takes some of the pressure off our American companies, and it's always good for American companies to be under pressure because you perform at a higher rate. But I think we don't have any choice here. So Elon Musk's robots, a lot of his parts still come from China. They're moving them to other countries. His Optimus robot, which is supposed to be priced at $20,000, but with Elon, you never know what that final number is going to be because he's a salesman on that stuff. But we need to get up to speed on that because we really need to produce our own domestic robots from a security point of view. Because I wouldn't want a Chinese robot in my house. I would worry about that.
For what reason?
Hacking and nefarious things that the robot could do, especially as batteries get better. One of the saving graces of a robot is that its battery dies. But with better batteries, that's becoming now. The new ones are already lasting 8 hours. That's long enough to do some mischief.
Yeah.
And I would also want on any robot, I want a physical on-off switch where I can just disconnect it from its own power, disconnect it from from the cloud, because China just announced, I think, John, you saw this in the paper, a incredible advance forward in its hacking AI and being able to hack things. Well, a robot or a car are the two best things to hack from a disruption point of view, and I don't think it'll be a Chinese. I'm not worried about the Chinese launching this, but they might give this to someone else for them to do. And everyone else is developing their things too. So people in the rural community are concerned about robots and the hacking of robots, and probably more so than taking away jobs. I hear it's the nefarious thing that they're more worried about than taking away jobs. Because like one of the guys I was talking to this morning is a contractor and he needs helpers, but you can't find any labor anymore. So he doesn't have helpers to help him. A robot would be great for that, to help him with his contracting jobs. So he's kind of excited about robots, but not excited about getting a Chinese robot that might go rogue at some point. So.
And you mentioned too the cloud and everything that's there. And what I know from my friends who farm, and right now they're able to very selectively and carefully put down just the right amount of fertilizer,
Correct.
Just the right amount, and
Pesticide,
it's all based
insecticide,
on GPS.
Yes.
It's all based on data that they've collected as far as yields and everything on their land. I think that could be relatively easily hacked, and we could end up wasting that chemical, that fertilizer, that seed, and without the ability to disconnect from the cloud and run that tractor, run that combine, just with what I'm seeing here, physically, that's something that we need to have. It's almost as important as the right to repair.
Yes, same kind of issue. Right?
Yeah.
And that precise issue came up today, and somebody asked how many GPS satellites we have, and I'm a pilot, and there's another guy in the room who's a pilot, and that's on the exam. When you take the pilot exam, you have to know how many GPS satellites. So we knew the answer because of that exam. I'm not sure why we need to know that, but it's on the exam, so it doesn't matter. But we have in the U.S. now, but not in the U.S., but up in the sky, 31. I think there's 24 that are mandatory, and then we've got 6 spares, which isn't a lot of GPS. And somebody else said, no, there's a lot more satellites than that. And I said, yeah, but they're Chinese, Russian, and European, and so we Googled that, and sure enough, there's 120 GPS satellites, but we don't control them, so we don't have that same ability. But those can be spoofed, and they have been spoofed in the past. And you can imagine a self-driving car. If you tell the car that it's 10 feet over, all the cars are going to go into the ditch, and they have, the cameras can maybe counteract that. There's ways around some of this, so people are thinking of this. But that issue came up because. The other thing is, if the GPS satellites go down or the cloud goes down, a lot of our tractors are now on a subscription basis. So when you have a subscription, your laptop, your phone, whatever, is constantly pinging the server. Is it paid for? Is it paid for? Is it paid for? Right? Because it wants to know when your subscription expires, because it's going to make you buy a new one.
Because you got a paywall there.
Because you have a paywall there.
Yeah.
Well, what if all the cell phone towers go down? Now it can't ping. Is your farm equipment going to turn off so you can't farm? We don't want that. I mean, if you have crops to harvest, you have crops to harvest. You can't wait for 3 weeks for people to fix it because you've lost the harvest. So, we've got to be thinking about farming from a you can't delay. It has to work all the time. So I would, and one of my policy things under my defense heading is every piece of farm equipment has to be able to operate without the cloud, without cell phone towers, without a subscription, without GPS in an emergency, because you may have to harvest that day. And if you miss it, everything rots.
Yep.
So, yeah. And that's something you can do on the state level.
We can shift gears a little. I want to talk about something that hits home with me, and that's like food standards. I run a food pantry and a food bank at work. And can you tell us a little about your ideas on food assistance, SNAP, and food standards?
Sure. And that is a bucket of issues that aren't easy. But for people who don't know, I used to be a foster home for City of Detroit, and I spent a lot of time in the city and a lot of time helping people and have a lot of firsthand observations on how that system works and how the pantry fits into that. And I currently know a lot of people on food stamps and what they're doing and where it's useful, where it's being abused, and what we can do to make this dollar go further. So to back up on if you're on assistance, food stamp, SNAP, whatever you want to call it, the amount that you get is double what my daughter and I spend per month on food. But that's because we make everything from ingredients. So a loaf of bread costs me 80 cents. A SNAP recipient spends $4 or $5 at the store. Well, that distorts your SNAP dollar. And I'm saying SNAP, I don't know, it's easy for me to say, but I'm talking about food stamps. So if you're going to the store and buying prepared frozen foods that a chef has prepared for you, and packaged bread and other things, your SNAP dollar is not going to go very far. But the bigger problem is that that's not even what most people buy. In the top 20 items SNAP purchases, number one is soda. That's $10 billion a year just on soda. And of the top 20, there's not a single fruit or vegetable. That's not what they're buying. So when you look at what they are buying, they're not buying a lot of what I would call food. They're buying luxury processed food. That's what farmers often call it. So that's a second problem. So your SNAP dollar isn't going as far as it goes. And that's why there are people who get their staples at the food pantry, and then they use their SNAP dollars at the store. And it's a lot of people. I don't know what percentage, but I personally see this, and I've never said anything.
Well, you said the number one thing that SNAP dollars are going to is soda.
Soda, right. And everybody has seen that at the store where you have the 20 things of liters on the side of the cart, and you pay with your EBT card. That's where your SNAP dollar is going. It's the number one purchase. So how do you address that? Because I think we've just described the problem, but that's not helpful. You have to have a solution to it. And one of the things that I'd like to see is teaching cooking in school again. Because when I talk to advocates, like if you run a food bank or I talk to people who work with the poor, they're like, well, you're right. If you cook, SNAP dollars are plenty of money for food, but you're talking that's 2% of the recipients. Most people just don't do it. They say they don't know how, which I don't completely buy. Because if you're spending 6 hours on YouTube videos, you could watch a YouTube video on cooking, but I'm not going to solve that problem. But what I could do is start with some pilot projects in schools to bring back cooking. Amen. And one of the methods that I've seen that I really liked was both at some private schools and in France's public schools. They'll have sometimes the students run the entire kitchen. They have to order the food, they have to prepare the food, and then they sit at a table like this, they put a linen on it, they set the plates, which are all china, and glasses with napkins, cloth napkins, and silverware. Everybody sits down, and then they serve everyone at the same time, and everybody waits till everyone is served, which is how I grew up. You couldn't eat until the head of the table sat down. And they say a prayer, or a blessing of thankfulness, and then everyone eats at the same time. Because they're teaching a whole bunch of things. You're learning math in the kitchen, doubling something, cutting in half, right? You're learning measurements, you're learning timing and staging, you're learning helping your colleague who's struggling over here. You learn to identify, oh, can I step in? And then at the table, you're learning grace and manners and socialization and patience, waiting for everyone to be served. It's a lovely system.
And cooking is chemistry.
And cooking is chemistry, right.
Absolutely. And I think it's a great idea. I know that when I was in high school, we had it.
Yeah,
And
it's possible, right.
I was one of the few guys that, went in there, but I also took typing.
I did too, and I was ridiculed for taking
Yes, I
typing.
was,
Yeah,
but
yeah. And man, did that ever pay off?
But I think these are the kind of ideas we need from our state leaders.
Yeah.
Mark, thank you so much for, not just identifying the problem, but coming up with a potential solution.
Right.
And I think that's what we've heard, Nate. We've heard everything today.
I heard you talk about some ideas that I don't hear other candidates talking about, and I learned a lot today. You're
Oh,
talking
good.
about stuff that I didn't really know about, and I learned a ton listening to you.
Oh, good, thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And Mark, there's so much, we want to have you back, but I want to give you the opportunity. Would you please tell us how we can help your campaign? Let us know a little bit about your contact information and what you're going to be doing in the next few days, few weeks.
Yeah, so I'm fundraising is going to be my big issue, and when we've run this through AI several times. AI gives me a 75% chance of winning. And when you ask, and for a lot of different reasons, I'm doing stuff that no one else is doing. This is a non-traditional campaign. It's unusual. I'm publishing an article every week in the paper. No one else does that. And you've seen my data books. No one else is doing that. I've written a book. No one else has done that. Well, Abdul has actually on healthcare, but which I've read, by the way. So fundraising, when you ask AI, well, why will I lose? And I'm like, well, fundraising. But I'm also reaching out to, I have an in now for every single township in all 16 counties. That's huge. And I think I've got a way now to be writing to them every week. Because you're talking about 3,000 people, township officials, who talk to everyone.
Yep.
And I want to talk to people who talk to everyone. So farmers are great. Farmers talk to hundreds of people every month. Township officials talk to all sorts of people. I'm going to like Rotary clubs and other VFW, some of the military groups like the message on military resilience for robots and farming, and we need to harden what we're doing because it's pretty fragile right now. So those are all things that I'm doing. But fundraising is the big issue. I'm probably running the cheapest and leanest campaign, and I print a lot of my own stuff. I'm a lawyer, so I can draft my own things. I don't need a consultant. And a lot of people do. They hire consultants to do what I'm doing. So that's just not a cost I have. But there's still, just postage and travel. I have my travel expense for it's a couple $1,000s a month to travel around the state, because I'm literally going from coast to coast all the time. So fundraisers, those are going to be really important. And I think once the word goes out, I think it will start accelerating. But right now, that's what Emily stands for. Early money is like yeast. And did you know that?
No,
That's what Emily's
new
list.
acronym. Yeah.
It's early money is like yeast because it makes it's a little bit of an in the beginning, and then it explodes. And at some point, I think that fundraising will become easier. But at the beginning, if you're not doing this, like I don't have enough money right now to make signs, and I need to order signs. People are asking for signs, and I've got to get those out. And I think probably in the next week I will have enough money, but you got to wait for it to come in, and all those issues. So that's sort of the campaign finance part. And as far as my platform, I'm running on things that I have heard actual voters raise themselves. So not in response to a question from me. If you ask somebody what are your 3 most important issues, you will curate a list of things that because you want to sound intelligent, or you want to sound like you're with the in crowd, or what's popular, or what you think I want to hear. That's the kind of the answers you get. It's much better when you're just sitting in a meeting and people are bringing up their complaints. That, is really one of their complaints because they brought it up without prompting. And I used to keep a list of these when I was writing my book, what people would say when I ask them, and then what they say at the township hall meeting. Completely different list, and no overlap. So they're not complaining. So, I only talk about issues that people have brought up, and I only talk about them if I have a solution. I'm not going to bring up complaints without a solution because I just don't think that's productive. And so that's not what I want to do. I want to be the one who is bringing up solutions to things. So anything I talk about, I'll have a solution for it. It won't just be, I don't like dirty streets.
And your solutions are not always just the easy way out. Your solutions require, effort, time, resources.
Thought.
It ain't gonna happen overnight.
Right.
But nothing starts until the first step's taken.
That's right.
And that's
right.
the important thing. And I think sending you to Lansing to represent us is that first step we all need to take. And because, I see something different. I see something that is really connecting with me. And I think a lot of people that are watching this today, I hope, are getting the same feeling. This is a candidate that is not a typical politician. This is a candidate that is going to work hard for the people that they represent.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that.
Thank you, John.
So, we're doing our part, by the way, folks in Manistee County.
Yes. And thank you.
We raise money at the Don Jennings dinner, which is August 15th this year, Saturday, August 15th. And you can buy your tickets now. Just go to our website. And the money that we raise there is all staying here locally for these type of candidates like Mark, who is representing Manistee County in Lansing. Okay? We do not give money to go to Washington. We don't do that. We're going to keep our money here local. The money that you provide to us, we are stewards of that to make sure that we're taking care of candidates like Mark here that are going to represent us very well. So I just want to put in a plug because we're doing that, to help you out and to help Rebecca out and to help Angel out and to help Mitch Diston out.
I think this, but when you have a partial county, because I have a partial county, but I view Manistee as my entire county. I'm not going to represent, half of the county. I represent the whole thing. I also represent the whole state, and there are a lot of actually Republicans, and I've been to 7 Republican events now. And they all gone really well, but Republican strategists also tell me that you're a statewide candidate because you are the only one with certain backgrounds. I'm the only farmer running for Senate. So I'll be the only farmer voice in the Senate. That makes me a statewide candidate. That helps every rural county in Michigan. I'm the only, the only pilot in the Senate. I'm the only corporate securities lawyer to ever have run for office, because most attorneys are litigators or prosecutors who run for office. And 2 different animals. My whole life has been bringing the deal together, and how do I sell it to the other side? What enticements can I give? And often to a prosecutor, everything's a nail. It's 2 different mindsets. But for Manistee, I represent the entire county, and that's how I feel about my 2 partial counties.
And the good news is that you're going to have a great teammate in Rebecca.
Right.
I think you two really can work well together.
And Bay County as well. That's Chedrick.
Yeah. Amen.
That's the 35th district. We would have the entire county.
So you go that far south also.
I do.
My goodness. Well, Mark, I just want to best of luck to you.
Thank you.
Come back anytime. We'd love to, if you got something new or something that you'd want to get off your chest, we'd love to listen to you. Right, Nate?
That's right.
That's why we're here.
Yeah.
And
we should talk more about immigration and
Absolutely.
and deportation.
Just as a teaser, I love his ideas on how we can help farmers with,
Yeah, and
get
now we
workers.
have a new issue with removing temporary protected status.
Oh, my God,
Yeah,
yes.
so
Oh, Lord.
I've got an idea.
We
on
can
that
do a
as well.
part 2 to this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll do it soon.
Okay.
But thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And Nate, any parting words?
I hope to hear more candidates start talking like you, and I'll do whatever I can to help support your campaign.
Good, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you.
All right, signing off.